out of poverty based on the schools. And there's.
Let me just say, I want to thank all the public speakers, and I can't imagine a better lead-in than Ms. Brown, who was my public school teacher, my biology teacher, when I was a kid. And I'm saying that because I want to make a point. You know, whenever we hear from charters, and I want to thank Councilmember Martinez for bringing this up, and I know he talked about the economic impacts of it, but I really want to talk about, you know, frankly, if it was only economic impacts, I probably would not support this moratorium. I would, because you know, I think my priority would be, you know, is it helping the kids? I think the more important conversation is it helping the kids? And that's a little bit what I want to talk about. Whenever we hear from charter people, they always come in, and the first thing they do is they dump on the public schools, right? They're all failing schools, right? So I'm a product of Kennedy High with teachers like Ms. Brown and many others. You know, so maybe I'm a failure, I don't know. But what kills me about it is they don't offer a solution to the quote-unquote failing schools. All they do is say that, so since these schools are failing, let's create another school to take away the good kids. So why is it okay to have failing schools for somebody else's kids? As long as your kids aren't going there, it's okay to have failing schools? No, it's not. What we need to do is figure out how we're going to work together to fix the schools. And the charters, with their game of scapegoating teachers, scapegoating unions, dividing communities, using billionaires, manipulating families to bully communities, they deny us the ability to actually work on fixing our public schools. So, I don't want to get too hot under the collar, but this one gets me. Every time it gets me. Because they play the same game every time. It's these billionaires, you don't see the billionaires. No, they're hiding. But they send out community members who are amazing people and who are just parents who care about their children. And every parent cares about their child and wants their child to have the best education possible. So they manipulate these parents, they send those parents out here. But they don't tell you that behind the scenes, some of those same billionaires funded the No on Prop 30 campaign. Prop 30 doesn't pass, all our schools get devastated. If Prop 30 didn't pass in 2010, all our schools would be devastated right now. Okay? they don't tell you that. They don't tell you that after they promised 2 years ago when we were debating the Richmond promise and whether or not to include charters, there was a commitment made that $1 million would come from the funders of Summit if we included charters in the Richmond promise. Guess what? We included charters in the Richmond promise. Guess what? They never spent $1 million. They never gave $1 million. They never got it. Didn't happen. Bait and switch. So this is not about helping kids. It's about privatization. That's what charters are about. It's a very clever, it's a ridiculously clever scheme. And I think one of the speakers explained it very well. It's a cycle, right? Less money goes to the public schools, so you can continue to say that those schools are bad. The kids who have parents who have the wherewithal to do the application, get their kids out there so that these schools look even better because they got the cream of the crop. Meanwhile, if you look at their budgets and you compare their budgets for special education to regular public school budgets for special education, you'll notice it's not the same. You look at their budgets for ESL, you look at their budgets for the kids who are the most hard hit. And it's not the same. Why? Because they're not worried about those kids. Because that's not part of their business model. So I'm all for this. I think this is the right thing to do.
Good evening, Council. I'm Kristen Jones. Good evening, Council. I'm Kristen Jones. I teach at Lake Elementary School in San Pablo, and I'm a member of Defend Public Education now, and also a member of United Teachers of Richmond. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I had to run out to my car. Anyway, I just wanted to share with you some reasons why the city should consider adopting a moratorium against charter schools right now. First of all, the city of Richmond has potentially lost a lot in terms of wages and taxes because of charter schools. Charter schools do not hire unionized labor. So from the classroom to the office to the cafeteria, most of the employees are not unionized. Not only that, the Aspire Charter School, located up at Hilltop Mall Road, a prime commercial area, was built with labor imported from Nevada. So not only did they not hire union, they didn't hire Richmond, depriving the city and Richmond residents of millions of dollars in taxes and wages. So I want you to consider that point. Also, charter schools are not public schools. Putting the word public after a school's name does not turn it into a public school. Public education is a system of democratically elected governing boards. So we have our West Contra Costa Unified School District, for example. Charter schools don't have an elected board. The NAACP, Black Lives Matter, the United Churches of Richmond, and the Richmond Progressive Alliance already, well, I'm not sure if Progressive Alliance, but have already declared a moratorium on the encroachment of charters. I'd also say that the charter school industry creates excess costs for the city and for the school district. Our tax dollars go to pay for the public schools, but they also go to pay for the oversight costs for charter schools. So charter schools have a whole parallel administration that costs taxpayers more money. Charter schools come and they go. I think in California, out of 5 charter schools, 1 will close. It's not a good investment for the taxpayers. It's not a good investment for Richmond City taxpayers. And I have a lot of other things to say, but I think my time's running up, so thank you.
I'm Mary Flanagan. I'm a teacher at Nystrom for 12 years in West Richmond. And yes, I firmly believe that there should be a moratorium on charters throughout the country, state, and city and district, and that the charters are draining the money out of the budget. There was a big news segment about Oakland, and Oakland has to cut their budget by 2% again. They're paying back an enormous loan, and the charters are just strangling a district that's already, I think they're, what are they, a 3rd charter that's already up against the wall. So we're just following in their footsteps. We have to say no to the charters.
And how has co-location affected your school? They want to maybe take over some high schools and that kind of thing? What is co-location?
Co-location is when the Proposition 39 said that the charters could take over or had to be given whatever facilities they said they needed. And so at Nystrom, we shared the block for a while with 3 charters, a big city block, but there was leadership. Charter High was behind a cyclone fence, and on the other side of us, next to another cyclone fence, was Richmond College Prep, which is a elementary school in Richmond, and Stige had, well, I forget the charter that was co-locating on its facilities, and that just had a cyclone fence between them. And it was just tragic. You had these kids who were Latino mostly, and Stige was mostly African American, and 6 Stige teachers quit that year that had the co-location. The kids were absolutely demoralized and were tons of behavior problems. Parents were furious. It was literally 2 campuses, and Stige since then has gotten funding and whatnot. But that was a terrible year, and 6 teachers quit that year before the first semester was over. Some of them went to work for the charters. The charters had money, and they had kids from families where the parents were in a better position to advocate for their kids, and it was just in your face, this 2-tier system, and your heart just bled for the kids at Stige. It's cruel.
Good evening. I'm Susan Worley. I'm a resident of Richmond, and I was a teacher in West Contra Costa Unified School District for something like 29 of the 30 years that I taught. I'm also the mother of a child. My son graduated from West Contra Costa Unified School District, and he's getting a PhD in the sciences. We've got good schools here. I'm really appalled by people who will have things to say about how they have to leave and go somewhere else because they don't like the schools, and it's often based on having really no information about our public schools. It's, you know, people need to educate themselves, but also if we have public institutions that people are not happy with, it would make sense for people to get involved and make them what they want them to be. I'm very happy with both my experience as a teacher and with my experience that my son had. And I would encourage you to reject privatizing our public schools. And that's actually what it is. It's taking public monies away from the public schools, crippling the public schools. So they can't offer, I was an art teacher, they can't offer art programs and music programs and other programs that make us whole people when they take the money away. And they do this in poor communities. They're not doing this in a lot of the areas where people have a lot of money. They're doing it in places like Richmond where they think they can get away with it. So I'm hoping that everybody on this who's considering this will read something about them. There are a lot of articles in the Washington Post I read two this week that talk about how the charter schools in California, besides not meeting accountability standards, they also are bankrupting the state. They're really hurting the state. These are sad times. Privatizing schools like this is taking away the possibility of teachers and other staff members being in unions. It's union busting. It doesn't leave people with a future. Thank you.
John Earnshaw, 20-year teacher in the district. The Association for Education, Finance and Policy issued a report in 2014 titled Fiscal Impacts of Charter Schools Lessons from New York. This report focused on the economic impact of charters on the educational system as a whole by looking at the net cost to taxpayers for funding the entire public education system, including charters and public schools. The report examined the impact of charter schools in Albany, New York, which in 2009 had 8,000 students, in Buffalo, which had in the same year about 32,000 students, very similar to West Contra Costa. With regard to the net cost of delivering educational services, the report found a significant increase primarily because of parallel administration systems and the personnel and physical plant costs associated with two administrative systems. The report also focused on the economic and financial impact of charter schools on districts. The key question here is, can districts decrease expenditures commensurate to the decline in revenue? The answer for both Albany and Buffalo was no. The report also found that charters do not enroll students with disabilities and limited English proficiency students at the same rate as true public schools. In Albany, system-wide, about 20% of all students are enrolled in charters, but system-wide, only about 9.1% of LEP students and a mere 6.1% of students with disabilities are in charters. Buffalo charters have similar issues. However, this obviously keeps the more expensive and more academically challenged students out of charters and in the public schools, increasing costs and decreasing academic performance of the true public schools. However, New York State has policies that California does not have that reduce the fiscal impact of charters. One is much higher per pupil spending. For example, Buffalo, about the same size as West Contra Costa, has a $930 million budget, and our expenditures around $300 million. In addition, New York State provides district with transitional aid. It was $700 million. And they're dealing with charters. In Massachusetts, people voted despite an incredibly expensive campaign by the
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Carlos Taboada. I'm a retired teacher from West Contra Costa Unified School District. And we are here at the Richmond City Council to support the petition, the move to put a moratorium on the expansion of charter schools here in the city of Richmond. We have a situation that all 13 charters in West Contra Costa are located in Richmond, in the city of Richmond. And we feel that this is the presence of these charters hits the bottom line of the city. It takes taxpayers' money and it hurts the community and is helping to drive our district into bankruptcy. Just to give you an example, these charters don't hire union people, from teachers, cafeteria workers, even in the construction of the new charters. They are very damaging to the city. Just to give you an example, the construction of the Aspire charter school right here on Hilltop, a top commercial district of the city, was built with labor brought from Nevada, thus depriving the city of Richmond from wages and taxes. Not only that, but their continuing encroachment on our public school system is going to lead, and we know that because several board members have expressed that same thought, is going to lead to school closures. There is no way about it. And so we are here to support public education and to support the City Council member, Edwardo Martinez, who is the one that put forth this proposal to put a moratorium on the expansion of charter schools here in the city. So I think it's something that we have been working for a long time. There's several other groups and institutions here in the city that have passed moratoriums opposing charter schools.
Okay.
Thank you.
And why don't you talk about Defend Public Education Now? What is Defend Public Education Now?
Well, Defend Public Education Now is a group of teachers, community members, social activists, and we have one commitment, and that is to protect what belongs to the people, and that is our system of public education. We have been under attack for many years, and this has reached a crisis point where we cannot stand idly by and see schools closing, and seeing the continuing encroachment on what is the public sector. We think that the public sector is made up of the sum total of the social relationships of the members of our community. And the charter school project is a corporate project that sees the commons, the public sector, as made up merely only of the market relationships. So if the kids have money, it's their parents' choice, they say, to send them to a public school. But it is not the parents' money, it is the community's money. And it's meant for the education of all children.
Parallel system running, two tracks of administration, and it's going to cost more. In fact, there have been many studies. Recently, a study out of New York showed just that financially charter schools it's an inefficient thing to have two systems running parallel to each other.
And they may be closing schools in Richmond as more charters open up. I mean,
Right.
co-location.
Right.
What is the way of defending the public schools from these closures and the more introduction of more charters?
Right. Well, you're 100% right on that. In fact, school board members have stated that basically West Contra Costa Unified School District, of which Richmond is the major part of, is at saturation level when it comes to charter schools. They've run out of room for co-location. So opening charter schools and taking students away from our district will force the district, it's been stated that it would force schools to either be closed and or given to these incoming charters.
And the Prop 39, which requires that school districts approve charters regardless of the financial impact, do you think it should be repealed?
Oh,
As it seems, why don't you talk about Prop 39?
Well, absolutely. I think Proposition 39 was a huge mistake. I think you may know that it was tied with the issue of passing parcel taxes, which was progressive. It made it easier for us to fund our public schools. But with that was tied in somehow this business about charter schools not being able to consider the financial impact, and it also states that once a charter has been approved, the district has to provide a facility. So it really ties the hands of our elected officials.
And is there a threat of bankruptcy of school districts, LA or Oakland?
Yeah,
and
other
Richmond?
school districts certainly. Richmond, our school district currently, our budget is sound. So I wouldn't say that's an imminent threat here. But for me, the threat of charters it's a long-term one, but it's a very dangerous one because it creates a non-union sector growing within our body, and it isolates workers, and the way bosses like it, when workers are siloed, isolated from their peers. This is the kind of system that they want, and this is not the kind of system that I think is what Richmond people want.
31,700 reasons why I support, and I think we all support this study for a moratorium on charter schools. 30,000 for each one of our students enrolled, and 1,700 for each one of our teachers. I'd like to begin by quoting a comment made by our former school board member, Todd Groves. He said, referring to the approval of the Voices Charter School, one of the two recently approved, he said, by approving Voices, the Board of Education cemented a $10 million revenue loss equivalent to the Measure T parcel tax. I'd like to focus my comments on this issue of revenue losses. Just to put things in perspective, we should remind that the charter school that has been established here, the Aspire Charter School, located on Hilltop Mall Road, a prime commercial area, was built with labor imported from Nevada, okay? Thereby depriving this city and the residents of Richmond of millions of dollars in taxes and wages. There are other things that we should consider. School closures and the harm they do disrupting our community. As our student base decreases, our costs increase, and it's a circle where the school board will see no other solution, no other fiscal solution than to close schools. And we do not want to do that because they have a hopeful disrupting effect on our communities. Also, we should consider the effect that it has on teachers' futures. All teachers contribute to the California State Teachers Retirement System, except teachers enrolled in charter schools. Yet, we pay their salaries. This should not go on. Also, we should consider this. Thank you very much.
Councilman, in the beginning, I was not in favor of putting charter schools in Richmond. However, once they came, there were some that had closed down, and they wanted to go everywhere. They was picking kids. They don't pick the average kid out of a school. They pick their choice, so they'll know. But every dollar they made took a dollar away from the public schools, so that's why the schools are always in the, you had to, so I would think that moratorium on this, if you guys agree, would really be a good thing for Richmond. And if you could, you would let the moratorium go for the next 30 years. I'm serious. Because that'll let the kids that's trying to do something now, do it now. I don't have anything against charter school, but all of them are not good. So the moratorium would be great. Thank you.
So let's say we have an earthquake, we send people to the charter schools which are built under less stringent regulations and send people to a public school. Which school would you want your kids to go to? Which schools would you want your kids to be in during that earthquake? One built under less stringent regulations or one built under regulations set by the Field Act? I can tell you where I would want to be, and it's not a charter school. Charter schools are supposed to provide public services, and public services need to be available to everyone and not subjected to a lottery, and not subjected to someone's opinion, and not subjected to policies that are not sunlighted the way public school policies are. When you ask for information, especially financial information about charter schools, you're gonna have to really fight to get it. So, a lot of times, private schools are not public property. The schools actually belong to the charter schools and not to the school district. And sometimes it's very difficult to figure out how much of that money came from us, the taxpayers, and how much of it came out of the pockets of the private school organization. So we're actually handing money over to private organizations to pay for things that are public services. And so this conversation that we're having tonight is really not within our purview, but it is because all the students who live in Richmond are concerned. All the students who live in Richmond need to be protected by us because they certainly aren't being protected by the school board. This is a conversation that needs to happen at the school board, but I haven't heard it yet. So let's move forward and hold the school board accountable for things they should be doing to protect our students here in Richmond.
Our next speaker is Mike Hutchinson.